There are millions of flood-damaged cars from Hurricane Ian flooding out Florida, and untold numbers of vehicles were hit in Florida and other southern states over the last few weeks and even over the last few years. Be aware of the newest warnings for unsuspecting car buyers against the heightened risk of fraud, as those vehicles may soon appear for sale across the U.S. like they have in the past, with no disclosure of damage. This is not an isolated incident. This problem has occurred in the past and keeps rearing its ugly head. Used car buyers need to be aware and not take the risks of buying a flood-damaged car. Now, you may have seen the $1 million McLaren that was floating around, the Porsches, the Bentleys, and the other luxury performance cars that were destroyed by the floodwaters. However, everyday trucks, cars, and SUVs were also waterlogged due to the storm surge. And the National Insurance Crime Bureau, or the NICB, a nonprofit that works to combat and prevent insurance crime, says that in the wake of major flood events, scammers will emerge and buy up water-ravaged cars and try to resell them as undamaged vehicles. Just like they have in the past hurricanes of Katrina and Rita, these vehicles end up all over North America and all over the world. We anticipate a significant amount of flooded out vehicles to be cleaned up and then resold out of the state of Florida and literally every state. This is very common, especially as there is a high demand for used cars globally. And what can you do to avoid a flood damaged car? But before we dig into that, I want to remind you to subscribe and click that little bell for notifications so you don't miss anything. We give you more than car reviews and first looks of new vehicles. We give you car smarts, because knowledge is power. It is too soon to know how many cars were damaged by Hurricane Ian, but the risk of fraud is high. With the cost of used vehicles up nearly 40% since 2019, selling flooded out cars is incredibly profitable. Therefore, it is an attraction scheme for crooks. The NICB says consumers should be on the lookout for any potential hidden flood damage when shopping for used vehicles by checking for the signs of water damage. There are some easy ways to spot flood damaged cars. Some of the signs include new carpeting, new upholstery, new seat belts, and other red flags are rusty screws and other metal parts and mud or signs of submersion in the engine compartment or under the dashboard. The biggest concern is with electrical components and computer chips. Yes, we're back to computer chips again. So you can look underneath the fuse box and see if there's moisture. Don't buy that vehicle if you find moisture in the fuse box. That's a major sign that this is a flood damaged car. And the most important thing a buyer should do is enter a car's vehicle identification number, or VIN, into the NICB's VIN check database to investigate whether a car was declared a salvage car or a total loss from flooding. But there will only be record if a claim was turned into an insurance company. And even Carfax has data on these vehicles, but only 60% of the flooded out vehicles. Flooded vehicles that are uninsured at the time of damage will not have documentation or any evidence from VIN check system that says, hey, this was flooded out. Therefore, they're cleaned up and sold to unscrupulous owners without disclosing the damage. And some scammers might even sell such vehicles to states far away from Ian's path of destruction, where buyers may be less likely to suspect flood damage, or something called title washing, where you move the car from one state to another in order to remove that marking. NICB data shows that more than 422,000 vehicles were reported damaged from Hurricane Harvey and more than 215,000 from Hurricane Irma in 2017. 250,000 vehicles were damaged by Hurricane Sandy in 2012 and roughly 300,000 more vehicles in Hurricane Katrina in 2005. And those numbers just include claims made to insurance companies. Now, the best way to avoid purchasing a flood-damaged car is to take it to a certified technician. Pay for the full inspection, and you'll know pretty quick if this is a flood-damaged car. Now, it's important to note that flood-damaged cars are not covered under any factory warranties. That includes safety systems, rust-through protection, literally no technical service bulletins, no recalls, nothing. And when those systems don't function and the electrical problems become endless, that leaves you with basically a hunk of metal. Here's one additional important factor you need to know. Waterlogged electric cars are imploding in Florida after Hurricane Ian. There's a ton of electric vehicles that were disabled from Ian, as is internal combustion vehicles. The problem with electric vehicles ending up underwater can later burst into flames, and the batteries in the waterlogged autos begin to rapidly corrode and then combust.
Another problem with EVs, if they get salt water in them, They catch on fire, very difficult to put out.
There have been over a dozen just while I was there in the middle of Hurricane Ian, and that was pretty intense. And this could also be a problem with other states with salt as a result of salt on the roadways, and this could lead to some potential future problems that you need to consider. Now, no car is entirely safe when driving through a floodwater. Proceed with caution when driving through any type of floods or large puddles. All it takes is 6 inches of water, which is not much for a vehicle to float, of any type, whether it's a truck or a car. The cost of the damaged vehicles for all price ranges will cost everyone more in insurance rates. Avoid water if you can. If not, that's why you buy insurance. There is so much more to discuss on this subject. Put it in the comments down below and let's start the conversation. If you like this video, give it a like and subscribe for more videos like this one. If you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to answer them. All my links for social media, the book, and the podcast are in the description. Thank you so much for your support on our Patreon page, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time.